This guy's called the Standing Streamer.
Real stand-up kind of guy.
Holy crap, that's loud.
Hey everybody, Brian Zane from Wrestling with Regret, and you're watching Putting You Over.
Look at that. Look at that switch. All right, awesome. Well, our guest is here, so we're not as professional as Sledge. So we're just gonna. Can you hear me, Tristan?
Oh, I can hear you guys loud and clear. Can you
Perfect.
guys hear me all the way up in the Great White?
Yeah, we can hear you. You sound phenomenal.
Oh,
Well,
man.
only I'm in the Great White.
I'm in.
Streamer is in New York.
I'm in New York.
Oh, well, cool. So we're down here on the good side of the border. Even though I do love Putin, so I love to go see my sister in Hamilton all the time, and I love to go to Hamburger. Oh my God, I love that place. Mouth is watering. I'll let you guys do what you guys got to do.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. She's up in Canada. I'm here in New York, and yeah. So you're here, and your voice is so phenomenal, and it just sounds so good in my headphones. Does it sound good in your headphones, Vanessa?
Yeah,
gotta-
no, it's really good.
Um,
Some people just have the voice.
some people do have that voice, and we're definitely going to touch on his, he loves to talk, his ability to talk, his podcast and all that. But I don't want to start off the show. Great transition, Sledge says. Yeah, we're not the greatest professional show, but I see the guest and we're just going to it. We're talking to Sledge from Ring of Honor
Oh, cool. Hey, Sledge.
in the chat. Coffee with Sledge on Twitch, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 12 Pacific. Anyways, so I don't want to start off the show with a typical cookie cutter wrestling question, although we'll get to some generic questions here eventually. But a question we've debated a lot on this show is, who is your favorite Batman out of all the Batmen? Keaton. Jesus, I don't remember any of the others. Keaton, Bale, Clooney,
Kilmer.
Kilmer.
All right. So I think my favorite.
Bale, Affleck.
Oh yes.
My favorite, my least favorite of all is definitely not Ben Affleck. Like, no, he does nothing for me as the character. But I can attest that Adam West was probably one of my favorites because that's
Yeah.
the first Batman that I seen. Even though it'll make me sound ancient. Hey, look at LaGreca Fathead in the back.
Oh,
It makes
he's back there
me-
yelling at me.
He's watching you.
Yeah.
It makes me feel like it is. I don't want to make it look like I'm old, because when I was watching that Batman from '69, I was watching it in syndication
Yeah.
when I was a kid
Yes.
in the '90s, and I used to love that. I used to love that when Batman used to slide down the pole and Robin used to slide down the pole. We had the old school radiator. It was a pipe that went from the floor to the ceiling. So I would try to climb up as high as I can and let go and slide down, pretending I was Batman. This the way memories come back.
Yeah. I can't remember who I picked, but nobody had picked Adam West. And you can still watch those Batmans now on MeTV. RJ City would be proud. You can definitely
Right.
still watch them.
So let me throw this at you then.
Yeah.
So it is staying within the realm of comics and staying within the realm of DC.
Yeah.
Superman or Batman, and why?
Oh, Superman or Batman, and why? See, Superman or Batman's an easy. Yeah, I can just give an answer and we can be done with it. But he throws in the and why. That's a good worker. He knows what he's doing. I'm going to say Batman for the reasons that Superman can be defeated and gets weakened with kryptonite. And the only thing that can weaken Batman and bring Batman down is his will and his drive and his heart. Batman is a human, and I think humans can prevail. And I'm going to go with Batman. Yes.
So for me to accurately answer your question, I need to know what is the parental guidance rating on Put Yourself Over.
Oh, this is G. No, I'm just
Okay.
kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You can say whatever you want. We edit
Alright.
everything in post.
So I think that's Superman's little bitch, if you ask me.
Ouch.
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 He just
The reason
buried
why I say
Superman.
that is because how do you have so much problems with Lex Luthor?
Yeah.
Like, aren't you about as faster than the speeding bullet? Like maybe one day when Lex Luthor is sitting there doing a press conference or doing a conference call. Well, you know, we don't do conference calls anymore. Doing a Zoom call.
Yeah,
So
Zoom call.
dip in and zip out. I'm like, wait a minute, wasn't Lex sitting right here? But Lex is sitting like on the dark side of the moon somewhere, and he's like dead. You see, Superman,
Yeah.
Batman is the man
Yeah.
because when he formed the Justice League, he has the weakness for every single person. Ain't nobody else thought about
See,
that.
that's smart.
Batman goes, oh, you want to sign up for the Justice League? And these marks just walk right into the front door like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and fight evil. But Batman is like, yeah, you know, you want to fight evil, but I got something for you. Batman pretty much said, hey, no third party, you know, plans with anybody else but me, okay? Because I'm watching you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is great. The other thing we said, or actually at least I said it, nobody jumped on board. I thought that The Dark Knight, the Christian Bale, Christopher Nolan movie, I thought that was more of a Joker movie than a Batman movie. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that movie, that part of the franchise was great. I loved it. You know, I think that was the first Batman that came out when I was a grown man.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really want to talk about a Joker movie, the Joker itself,
Yeah.
with what's the name? Heath Ledger, Jared,
Joaquin Phoenix.
yeah, Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
That was a good movie in itself. But I liked the character development that they gave in that Dark Knight with Joker because we already got the character development from the first one. I think that was the Dark Knight Rises or whatever it is. I don't remember the name of these movies.
Yeah.
I get hit in the head, so I forget things sometimes. But I like the character development they did in the beginning. So by the time they got to the Dark Knight, it really didn't have to tell the story of Batman so much. You pretty much just had to bridge on what we already knew.
Yeah. Speaking about getting Tom Welling, we get a name in the chat that says Tom Welling.
He
Dave's.
played Superman in Smallville.
Oh,
I love that show.
Oh, jeez.
That's why Superman is the best. I'm sorry. Christopher Reeve, Tom Welling, done. Everything else, you're out.
And well, I'll tell you this. I remember when that show came out because I was living in New York City at the time. And it was like September 11th. And I remember seeing these buses like driving around. Some of them were wrapped in the whole entire graphic for it. And I'm like, wow, what is this Smallville? And I was hooked for plenty of seasons. I probably fell off for maybe about 3 seasons, but I was hooked to that show, man. I was hooked to like, oh my God, to like a fat kid when the Golden Corral opens in his neighborhood for the first time.
Hello, Golden Corral. Well, the problem with Smallville was the ending, the finale. They never showed him in Superman costume.
They did, but they didn't.
Yes, exactly. They did, but they didn't.
When he's flying over the earth
Yeah.
and cape is like super long, like where do you think he's flying with that? But they did, but they didn't. You know, like Smallville. When Smallville came on WB and WB turned into CW, if
Yeah.
I have that right in my
Yes,
mind,
that's right. Yep.
WB changed from a very male-oriented channel because I remember,
Yep.
you know, growing up in New York City in the Bronx, Boogie Down, Holla at Me. And I remember growing up in the Bronx and watching Xena and Hercules and all these other shows on WB. Then all of a sudden, WB flipped on its head and turned to CW and it started showing a lot of female-oriented demographic shows.
One Tree Hill,
Right.
Oh, One Tree Hill. That's my
Gossip
jam.
Girl, Gilmore Girls. Yeah. Yeah. Smallville.
Yep. I like Smallville. I'm not gonna lie. I loved it.
Ring of Honor Sledge says he is so mad right now that you called Superman a little bitch.
And you guys have heat now, so watch out. Book it.
Right?
Book it.
He could come on my podcast if he wants, and he could talk about how Superman is not a little bitch, and I'll just like edit that part out.
Yeah, just edit it in post. That's what we do. So you mentioned you got hit in the head a lot. You are a wrestler. We're gonna get to that. You grew up. I won't beat around the bush. You grew up a wrestling fan your entire life. What I want to know is 7th grade. You were an overachiever. Got all your work done ahead of time. It was too easy for you. And then the teacher wanted to challenge you because you were done before everybody else. How did he challenge you?
Let me tell you something. Before I even answer that question, I want to say I appreciate you taking the time to research me, because I think the best thing, because I'm not a professional broadcaster.
Neither am I.
I would say I'm a professional podcaster because I have made more than $1 from the Tristen Law show. But one of the things that I think is very important is that before you bring somebody into the show, research them so that you can understand what's going on, because you obviously know the answer to your question, but your listeners and your watchers don't do. So you know what? I'm going to gladly answer that question for you. So when I was in middle school, 7th grade, we moved to the Bronx when I was in 5th grade. By the time we got to 6th grade-ish, cable came to my neighborhood. Makes me sound old, right? Because all these kids that grow up, right, they're born with the internet and they're born with cable.
Just get it right here on their phone.
Exactly. So I remember when the cable first got put on, the first 2 channels I wanted to watch were Nickelodeon, and the second thing I wanted to watch was USA, because I understood that Raw came on. So at that point, man, I became hooked, man. I became hooked like a crackhead. Like I couldn't get my eyes off of it. And when I was in school, I used to get in so much trouble, because what would happen is that I would finish the work quickly and then I get mischievous. So like for me, you need to keep my mind occupied at all times, because if it's not occupied, I get to do crazy things. So instead of getting in trouble, in one of the days when my teacher wasn't there, the computer teacher, she pulled me out and said, "You're going to be with me all day. You're going to teach all the kids how to use computers." I said, "Great." So I'm teaching my peers how to use computers. But she said, "In order for you to do this, you have to be good." So obviously we didn't have a class during the time. And guess what I got? I got bored. So what she wanted me to do was, she goes, I was talking to her about this wrestling, and I had this WWF magazine. If you want to know how I got them, that's another funny story. Vince, if you ever listen to this, I apologize for what I did to you. But I wrote into the magazine. I opened the magazine. There was an address there for Vic Grimes. And what I would do is that I would write a letter to Vince McMahon asking how to become a professional wrestler. And Vince McMahon, damn it, he never wrote me back. And Vince, if I ever see you, Vince, we got heat. We don't. But we do.
Breaking news. Breaking news. So you wrote a letter to Vince, and he never wrote you back. Shame on him. But you mentioned something about the WWF magazines. So you, as a kid at that time, middle school, you're going down to the corner store with your $5. You're picking up the magazines.
Right.
Yeah. That was your drug.
No. That's not how I was getting the magazines.
Oh.
I used to go down to this little gift shop. It was a Chinese gift shop.
Okay.
And there, man, they had everything, every toy known to man, it was more like a novelty, like souvenir shop. I wonder if it's still there. So I would go in there with my $5 and I would buy like picture frames and I would hang those on my wall. But the way I used to get the WWF magazine and Raw magazine, and let me tell you, first off to start, I do not condone what I'm about to explain. And I don't think in 2020 it's possible in any way, shape, or form, because magazines don't exist anymore, really. Actually, I just bought PWI 500. But, magazines don't really exist, and they want their money up front. So what I used to do was, anybody that used to get magazines back in the day, particularly WWF or any kind of sports magazine or magazine like that, they have a card that you can fill out. Yep. And you fill out the card, you drop the card in the mailbox, right? And then what WWE magazine would do is after I drop it in the mailbox, man, a couple weeks later, yeah, I got that brand new issue. And the next issue would come, and then the third issue would come. And after the third issue, they would say, hey, we want our money. So what I would do with the third issue is I would take the card out of there and I would fill out a different name and mail it again. You see, my mom was not about that, and she's not about that mess in any way, shape, or form. So what I would have to do was I would have to get the mailbox key, and I had the mailbox key for other reasons as well too, not only to check the mail, but I used that mailbox key so I can go in and intercept them before she saw them, because when she saw them, she would throw them in the garbage because she knew I wasn't getting them in the right way. So what I would do is consistently just keep sending in cards with different names to feed my addiction of pro wrestling.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing.
And it's crookery. Don't ask me how I figured that out, but it's crookery.
Man, that's what you learn in school. You were an overachiever.
I was bored.
You were bored, yeah. And that makes me, oh man, I have 3 kids, and my oldest is an overachiever and gets bored a lot, and I just dread what's gonna happen. Big wrestling fan, middle school. I mean, I don't know if I'm dating you, but probably Attitude Austin era, 14, 15-year-old, probably.
Yeah.
I think we're around, I'm older than you, although I don't look it. So, where's that aha moment in your head, in your life, where you're watching this, you're watching everything you enjoy, you're relating to it, it's resonating with you. When do you have that aha moment where you're like, shit, this is what I want to do?
So I remember when I walked in on my grandfather, he was watching wrestling when we lived in Brooklyn, and he was, I remember, I might have been like, and it's every pro wrestler story. Oh my God, I've been a wrestling fan since I was 5.
Right.
So I remember walking in on my grandfather, I was probably like 4 or 5, and he was watching WWF Superstars, and anybody that grew up in New York, New Jersey area, you knew it came on Channel 5 on Saturdays and Sundays around noontime. So I'd walk into the room and I just saw the Undertaker on the TV, and I was like so like hooked on what was going on. I was like, oh my God, like I need to watch this. And I remember thinking, man, I need to go to school in order to be a professional wrestler, because I thought that's how they drafted people, just like basketball.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But to my chagrin, I realized that's not how it works. But that I remember as well too, being a teenager. I was maybe 17, and I was sitting in my friend Nicholas's room with our other friend Greg. And what we were doing was they were telling me, you don't want to be a wrestler. I said, man, I want to be a wrestler. They go, you're never going to make it. And I was like, I'm going to make it. They go, well, what if you don't make any money? I said, I don't need to make money. I eat bologna sandwiches just so I can make it as a pro wrestler. So I think those were the 2 times where I was like, you know what, this is when I really want to do it.
And you do it. You get there. I think it's 2007,
Yep.
Team 3D Academy down there in Florida at the time, with Bubba or Devon. Was Bubba there as well?
Yes, Bubba and Devon were both there. Bubba taught the advanced class. Bubba taught the beginner class.
Oh.
Devon taught the advanced class.
Oh, we'll definitely clip that. Ooh. Can you say that again?
Bubba taught the beginner class and Devon taught the advanced class.
That's right. With the beginner class, you get things like aces and eights, and
Oh, that was way before that. That was
yeah, I know.
Man, when I was doing this, Bubba and Devon were still wrestling as
I think it was 2007, so probably Team 3D. So yeah.
Yep, they were still wrestling as Team 3D, and I sometimes get upset because I look at these guys on the TV. There are guys right now that are on AEW. There are guys right now that are on WWE, Ring of Honor. There's a guy that I know that's in Japan.
Yeah.
That we all went to the same school together. We might not remember each other because it was like 100 years ago, but I wish that I understood what I was paying my money for back then, and I wouldn't have squandered it as much as I did. But you know what? You can't live life with regrets.
Right. Why do you think you did squander it, using your words?
Because I was a 22-year-old kid.
That makes sense to me.
100% true. So what we used to do, right, was what we used to do at the school was I would go Mondays, Wednesdays, and some other day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, whatever. And what would happen was that I didn't drink when I was 21. at all. It wasn't something that I wanted to do because I felt like if I drank at 21, I'd become an alcoholic. I don't know how that worked in my head, but that's what I said to myself. So I became 21. Whole entire year I didn't drink. Then 22 hit. Man, I had to make up for lost time. So me, my friend Chris, and our friend Kelly, man, we were just like partying every night. We'd start on Thursday night. We go to Oh Shucks in Orlando. Friday night, Saturday night. Sunday was the sober up day because I know by Monday I had to go to wrestling school and we had to lift all these heavy weights and do all these other things. So the last thing I wanted to do was kill myself, but I could not wait till Thursday night. But all I wanted to do was party at the time.
Yeah. Would you go back and change anything, or do you think that was what was meant to be?
That's a tough question. And I love time travel because my favorite movie is Back to the Future.
Oh shit. Well, this whole wrestling show just got derailed. We could talk Back to the Future all night long.
Oh, don't threaten me with a good time and expect me to say no, okay?
Oh, I got a great Back to the Future question. I'll let you follow up on this.
Hey, all right, I'll let you go with it. So, if I was to go back and change something, thinking about movies like The Butterfly Effect or Back to the Future, different things like that, honestly, you and I might not be sitting here right now.
Yeah, it's true. It's a great point.
I may not be this big name wrestling star, but I can be somewhere in a mid card around somewhere making decent money. And I wouldn't even be on your radar. I would be one of those people that you may feel like is ungettable.
Yeah.
But, now that, I'm wrestling at the level that I am, and, am I still working my way up to possibly get into WWE? You know what? I think that maybe I'm too old for WWE, but I feel like I can still offer them something. Maybe they need somebody to do a podcast for them, edit a podcast, produce a podcast. If they're looking for something like that, I can do that. But when it comes to the form of wrestling, I feel that maybe Ring of Honor, AEW, Impact Wrestling, those are the places that I think that I fit best when it comes to pro wrestling. But even if I do make it to one of those three places, I do want anybody listening right now to understand that I'll still be the same OG. Because me going up is the same as that guy that I be going down. And I want everybody to know if I ever do make it, when I do make it, some way, shape, or form, if you ever wanted me for a podcast, and I didn't have to jump through much red tape, I do it. MLW is another place I'm highly interested in wrestling for as well, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna throw in there. You're saying you're unattainable. You don't like the list that like Streamer and I make up of messaging people. I message A list all the way down to Z. Like there's nobody in between that I don't feel I can't message.
No, and we've talked about this a lot, and it's like it's like a Christmas list for me. When I was a kid and I would make my Christmas list, I'd write everything and anything I wanted, whether I knew it was obtainable or not obtainable, because you never know. And if it's on the list, at least there's a chance. And so I mean, we unobtainable doesn't matter to us. Really.
Even for my podcast, right? I have a wish list, and my wish list started with 40 people. And like every day, maybe every second of the day, it balloons, it grows. Like I see somebody on Twitter, or, I bought the PWI 500 and I was like, oh, I'm looking through this. I'm like, oh, this person would be great. Oh, I know that person. That person to see if they, if they'd be willing to come on to my podcast to talk. What else do you do on podcasts? You don't dance on podcasts. Oh. But, for me, the list just keeps growing. And there are names on there that I feel that are 100% unattainable. Yes. Like I have Dave Bautista on there, and I have Tony Khan. And I don't think any of those two people want to talk until I start to get more street cred. So as I get more street cred, because people like this podcast, I'm telling you, they love it.
It's blowing up. That's what I've heard.
It's blowing up, and as I blow up more and I continue to get more success and people keep listening and having a great time and everything else like that, and I keep getting great feedback, because, obviously not every episode is a home run. People like some more than others. I'm going to have enough street cred to be like, hey, well, Dave Bautista, I see you on Twitter all the time. You can come onto my show. Oh, yeah, no problem.
So you can do that. You can do that because you would never see it. We just talked about Dave Bautista on here because I said that Dave Bautista is a better actor than The Rock. And I'm going to stand by that.
No.
I am. He
well,
was-
yeah, you're standing, but that's
He's,
about it.
you know, he's Guardians of the Galaxy, hilarious. He was just in that new spy movie I can watch with my kids. I mean, what's The Rock done for me lately? Really?
He's done Jumanji. They all suck.
Oh
Sorry.
crap! Oh, my kids love that movie. I forgot about that.
I fell asleep during that movie. Let me tell you, I've paid good money, bro, to sleep in a movie. Good money. That's a shoot. If you did that to work, that's a shoot. I remember going one time to the movie in Orlando when I lived in Orlando, and I can tell you that if I didn't know any better, the movie never started, because when I got there, the lights were on, and the next thing I noticed, the lights were on, and everybody was leaving.
The Rock.
Yeah, I did that with what was it, Burn Notice.
Burn Notice. Yeah, yeah.
Was that what it was called? Brad Pitt had like a little spot in it. Anyways,
Maybe. Who knows? The Rock. So The Rock's gonna induct Ken Shamrock at Impact Hall of Fame.
I think that's cool.
Yeah. Right. What do you think Vince thinks of that?
You know what? I mean, I don't know. I mean, on Ken Shamrock, that's a total case of shooting a shot.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause if you don't ask, the answer is no. And if you ask, the answer could still be no.
Right.
So what's the risk of taking the chance? But I'm sure though, The Rock understands that he's not going to go on there as The Rock. He's going to go on there as Dwayne Johnson, because, obviously the WWE owns the name The Rock.
Correct.
They may license it to Dwayne Johnson to do his movies, but it's going to be Dwayne Johnson. I don't think that Vince McMahon has any issues with that, and I'm looking forward to see what's happening.
Yeah.
I mean, even if I was Vince McMahon, I don't want a company like TNA out of business.
No.
I don't want AEW out of business, because when you give everybody options, some people want everything, like at a buffet. Some people want everything, or some people just want the seafood. It all depends.
It all depends. And now I forgot what my Back to the Future question was. It will come to me though. It will come to me. It will definitely come to me. So you in your words squandered your opportunity at the 3D Academy in Orlando, in Florida.
Right.
Still, I'm sure you took away priceless advice and experience that you can't get anywhere else. That's in 07. 09, you go up to a school, which unfortunately I don't have the notes down for that school, but it's ECW Nunzio's school. I'm correct?
It was ECW Nunzio's school. It was BWO, Body Slam Wrestling Organization. It was ran by Richie Rotten, Nunzio, and Preacher.
Yeah.
Preacher does a lot of training for a lot of guys in CZW and on H2O and all the other stuff in South Jersey.
Sweet. And then and that's where really you got focused, and you took off, got your names out there. You've wrestled, I mean, the list of people that you've wrestled that I researched, I mean, I'll just name a few. Snuka, Santana, Balls Mahoney, first of all, rest in peace, Balls Mahoney.
Love wrestling Balls. Let me tell you something. Balls is a great freaking guy. I love wrestling Balls. And he used to bring his little boy around as well too. I don't remember his little boy's name. He used to always bring his little boy around. His little boy was like his everything.
Yeah. Oh.
Everything, man. Balls was such a good guy, man. I never forget one time I'm working in the ring with Balls Mahoney, and he legit was working me, making me think that he got hurt. So as I'm like working him, I'm like, dude, you okay? Working, brother. Oh shit. Okay, no problem. I loved wrestling Balls Mahoney, man. Good guy.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I miss that guy. He is something else, I tell you. So you're up and down all the East Coast, all in that territory area. But for the people here that are in the chat or when we push them out to YouTube that might not know the real Tristen Law, the real big Tris, as a wrestler, why don't you let us in on that? Who you are as a wrestler, your style, all that fun stuff.
Well, I actually get pulled aside by a lot of old school wrestlers, and I get the compliment that I'm very old school in the way that I work, in the way that I look in the ring. I still believe in a lot of the old school principles that the moves don't mean jack It's all about the story. If I can't tell the story, then the moves don't mean anything.
Right.
You know, I'm okay with getting the rest hold, bringing the fans down, and bringing them back up. But for people who don't understand who Tristen Law is, so during this whole entire time, before the pandemic around my head because I was a king and stuff like that, they called me King Tristen. But during the pandemic, I actually took a DNA test and realized that I'm 2% Italian, 2%. So because I'm 2% Italian now, hey, I can't wait. I think my new gear comes tomorrow, and I got a show on October 10th in Colts Neck, New Jersey for SWF.
Yep.
And I will be representing the 2% of my Italian heritage. Some people are actually upset by that.
Yes. What do you say to them?
Hey, forget about it.
Oh, that's funny.
Nice.
And he's 98% better than most people.
Damn right. Damn right. Do the math. I'm 98% better than all of them.
So, besides wrestling, and if people haven't picked up on it by now, with his charisma and his voice and his, love for talking,
His attire, he's promoting himself. It's amazing.
Yes, he's putting himself over.
And it's the name of the show.
Like Mr. Gallows.
Yes, he is like a Mr. Gallows. Great analogy or great comparison there. He does a podcast, the Tristen Law Show. New episodes drop every Wednesday. So tomorrow, who's dropping tomorrow?
Oh man. So I got Melanie Michelle. She's the co-promoter of SWF. And that's the show that they're doing.
Yep.
For the show they're doing October 10th. It's an outdoor show. And tickets are actually selling really fast for that. But it's actually cool that I have her. Let me tell you, I love having a woman on my show. Here's why. Because in a male-dominated world, in a male-centric environment, I love the experience and the outlook that they bring to the game, because they look at things differently than a man would do. And I loved talking to her. We talk a lot about her family. We talk about her love for pro wrestling. You know, we talked about all that, and I can't wait for everybody to hear it. I got so many episodes in the can that I can't wait for you guys to hear. Oh man.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome, because like I put this show out, and our shows will be out on all those podcast forums. I use Anchor. It's easy. But my show technically is a live show. Obviously, you can tell.
Right.
And it's just because the way things work with me. Like I have 3 kids. I'm homeschooling. The pandemic kind of sucked. Kind of helped the show, but kind of sucks. But like, how does it work for you, for your podcast? Like, can you get, like, you just say, hey, I want you on the show. They give you a time and a date, and then you fit it in. Like anytime, you just record it. And then what does a day in the life of the Tristen Law podcast consist of?
So my podcast life starts at 6 a.m. every day, because I work a regular job as well too.
Yep, shoot job.
Aside from my regular job, I got to go and I got to train for wrestling. I got to do 10,000 other things. So I wake up early in the morning, 6 a.m., sometimes 7, to do my podcasting. So pretty much what happens is, I knew in the podcast world, they state that most podcasts don't get past the 7th episode. So when I heard that, man, I said, well, I'll be damned, because I am not going to be stopping at 7 episodes. Yeah. I'm getting way past that. This is what I really want to do. So what I did was I sat there and I came up with this guest list of everybody that I wanted. I knew my first episode was going to drop August 5th. That was the arbitrary date that I picked. It gave me 4 weeks. Within 4 weeks, I created my website, created my brand. I put out my social media and figured out who I was going to be on the podcast and who I was going to market it to. Within those 4 weeks, it has changed. And even though I am 9 episodes in as of midnight Eastern time tonight, when the new episodes drop, anywhere you find a podcast, the show has changed little by little. So the first thing that I did was I started reaching out to some of my easy gets on the list.
Okay.
I knew that I needed to get 16 episodes recorded, 16 interviews recorded, so that I'd be able to break that
7 episodes.
that 7 episode itch, And I knew I needed to have enough to get up to Thanksgiving. So that was my mindset. So what I do is I say, hey, I reach out to the person. Hey, I got this podcast. I'm not sure if you know. This is me doing typing things. I do this podcast. I don't know if you know, but it's called the Tristen Law Show. And I introduce people to the personalities in and outside of the wrestling ring. And that's the unique part about it.
Yeah.
I'm introducing you to the personalities in and out of the professional wrestling ring. So it's not really a cookie cutter. Hey, let's sit down and talk about, tell me why the headlock is the best. Tell me about your first match. Let's talk about wrestling for 20 minutes. It's almost like this interview that I'm doing right now, that you get to understand the man or the woman or the person that is behind the character. You're understanding the personality. You're getting to love that person. So because of that unique dynamic, I have people that listen to my podcast that are not wrestling fans at all. And they enjoy it because it's a podcast about people. And if you like people, you'll like the Tristen Law Show. New episodes drop Wednesday. So what I do is I do these interviews, and these interviews are old. I'm telling you, they're old. When I first started, I was doing maybe 3-4 a week. Now I'm doing 1 to 2 a week. So what I do is I tell my guests, I need you to keep it evergreen, where it could be listened to at any time. Don't put any dates or anything really too crazy in it. So what I do is when I go ahead and I decide, and the perk of doing these interviews out of order is that A, I'm never starving for content. B, I can switch it up every single week. Okay, cool. This interview wasn't so great. Let me throw this killer interview in there to hook everybody, and then throw another bad one in there. And I'm not saying that they're all terrible, but some are home runs and some are not. And what I do is when I decide who I'm going to play, all I do is I record the opening monologue and the closing monologue, and then I sandwich them together, and that's the episode. So the episode is already set.
Yeah.
All I just have to do is the monologue portion of the show.
Awesome. Yeah. That's it's interesting because when I started this, I never thought of, hey, let me cut up the interview part and put it out on a podcast. And I am doing that. But I'm not really putting any effort behind it because it's a live show. Like this is where it is. And it's just really intrigues me how alike and similar they are. And it's just fun. And you're definitely a pro, man. And wow. Yeah. New show drops tomorrow. New show.
That's right. Only in 2 hours Eastern time. But here's the thing too, though. When you're talking about, I put everything behind this podcast. Like I just pick it up and I start running because I'm looking at this like I can't fail, and I don't plan to fail with this. Like I got merch out. Like everything about the Tristen Law Show is purposeful and has a meaning. I don't do something on the Tristen Law Show because I'm like, okay, I'm just doing it. There's a purpose behind it. Like I have a YouTube channel right now.
Okay.
And there's nothing on the YouTube channel, but you can find it if you want to subscribe. Anybody listening, it's the Tristen Law Show. But I have that YouTube channel because I want to secure the name, because I feel that by the time that I start using that YouTube channel, I'm going to have some kind of notoriety or some kind of steam behind me. I don't want anybody to railroad me and take the name.
Yep.
But what I'm going to be doing with that YouTube is I'm going to be repurposing episodes, but I'm going to be doing a Where Are They Now deal. And it's going to be live.
Ooh.
Because obviously these people that are listening every single week, and I'm telling you, I got people in Italy listening. I got the majority of the United States listening. I got a lot of people listening to the Tristen Law Show. And what's going to happen is, since these people have these connections with the guests that I'm having on the show, you want to know what they're up to now. Like, for example, my second episode, Love Jones. Love Jones talked about his DWI. Most recently, Love Jones, I personally took Love Jones to Alcoholics Anonymous.
Wow.
I know a guy that goes to rehab or Alcoholics Anonymous, and I reached out to him and said, hey, I got a guy who's having a hard time. Maybe you can help him. He goes, okay, whatever. So I message Love Jones and I say, hey, dude, if you need help, let me know. And he says, I need help. So I linked them up together. And as of today, he's 37 days alcohol free. So those are the stories and the connections that people are building with him. that they're going to be able to continue that story going on with him in the future. And that's what YouTube is going to be. And I'm going to be doing crazy things on YouTube because I may even do like trivia, different things, different crazy things on YouTube to reinvent the wheel, but extend it.
Yeah, that's smart because it's two different. It's not what you can find on the podcast. It's an extension, and they all link together. Man, he is a fucking pro. I'm gonna take tips from him. Hey, you have carte blanche on Instagram. You wanna come on to a trivia night on here? Get your feet wet. For sure.
I do it.
Yeah.
Here's the thing though about podcasting.
Yeah.
One of the things I make it 100% clear and 100% transparent. I do not compete with anybody in the podcast world.
I heard this. Yeah.
I don't compete with Conrad Thompson. I don't compete with you. I don't compete with Busted Open, the podcast version. The reason why is because podcasts are on demand.
That's right. Yep.
All I want you to do is listen when you have time. I make them easy enough to digest. It's not a 3-hour podcast like Conrad Thompson, but on a typical commute, you can listen to it on your way to work. So like I have no problem putting other people over. I just entered into a partnership with a podcaster from Italy where we're running ads on each other's show.
Smart.
Because there's no competition. And I make it clear on my ad that I put, hey, once you're done listening to this show, come listen to mine. Because there's enough in the podcast world for us all to eat. It's not like Busted Open Radio that comes on every day at the same exact time. But you know what? The Bump comes on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Which do you watch? Because they're both live. Yep. You don't have to choose when it comes to the podcast world. And I'm very open about that. And I'm willing to help anybody out in the podcast world because you know what? Once you eat, I can eat. Yeah. And we're all going to eat. We're all going to be sitting at the table together.
Awesome. And I think one of the things you got going for you, besides your wrestling, is the fact that you have all these hands in all these pots, just like Matt Raywald, formerly Aiden English, to make yourself marketable. And like you said, whether it's a WWE, whether it's MLW, AEW, you have all these skills and all these talents to bring. I can take a bump. I can get in the ring. I can edit this podcast. I can host. I can do an interview, all this. And I think, that's the way to do it nowadays. So you're doing it right, in my opinion.
I'll tell you this. When I went to a Ring of Honor it was maybe like 2013. And I remember standing there in front of Kevin Kelly, and it was, I can't remember his name. It was the guy that was with NWA. He was the producer, whatever. I can't remember his name. I'm going to kick myself in the butt once I remember his name.
Lagana?
Yep, Lagana. Yep. And I remember looking around the room at all these other wrestlers, impressive wrestlers, right? Some of them had more experience than me. Some of them were obviously better than I was because I was still brand new to the game at the time. And I looked around the room now and it's like, if they pulled me into a room and asked me, hey, Tristen, what else do you offer besides wrestling? My answer would be wrestling. That's all I offer. So now, like I tell the young kids that I mentor that when you're standing in a room full of other wrestlers, they're probably going to separate you. They're going to put all the black guys with the black guys, all the Hispanic guys with the Hispanic guys, all the white guys with the white guys. And what you need to do is shine. Because you know what? WWE may be looking for the next Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio is not going to be there forever. You know, they're looking for the next Rock. Granted, they don't want you to be that character, but they're looking for somebody that fits a special demographic so that they can reach out to a certain demographic. So you need to go take acting classes. You need to go take improv classes. You need to learn how to public speak. But now at 35 versus 25, I come to the table with a lot more than, well, I can wrestle. I can do anything, and I'm coachable. You want me to come into your office and answer phones? I can answer phones for WWE. WWE wants me to come in and do sales phone calls. I can do sales phone calls for WWE. Yeah. WWE needs me to come in and do podcasts, or anybody, Ring of Honor, they need me to host a podcast. They need me to talk on the microphone because I think I'm better at radio because I got the face for radio. But if they need me to come in on radio or do any kind of broadcast related things, I'm open to that because I understand that wrestling may not be what they want me to do. And I'd be an idiot if they say to me, like, okay, for example, There's a referee right now in the WWE, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember. His name is Eddie Orengo. He was the guy that got the mist blown in his face by Asuka.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Hey, him and I used to wrestle together all the time. All the time. Great freaking guy. But they signed him as a referee.
Yeah.
Does it mean he's a bad wrestler? No.
No.
But at the time, they were looking for referees, and he fit the bill.
Yeah.
Some of these kids that I talk to today, their answer would be, well, I don't want to be a referee. I want to be a wrestler.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. We'll call you.
Good luck.
We'll call you. I'm not an idiot. I am not Boo Boo the Fool. Oh, yeah, well, we saw your wrestling. We really like what you did, but we heard you on your podcast, or we heard you on such and such podcast. We want you to come on and do a podcast to where you interview the NXT superstars.
Yeah.
Great. I'll be there. Let me tell you, I don't live far from Stamford, Connecticut, and I can go to Florida in a heartbeat because my mom lives down there, so they don't got to pay for me to sleep anywhere. I'd be the fastest thing on 2 feet. They call me 2 Feet McGee. Because when they call me, all they see is smoke because I'll be down there in Florida. So
yeah.
But you got to bring something more to the table.
I agree, man. I mean, we just saw Dio Madden or whatever his name is now in Retribution. I mean, he was announcing, you know, and now look at, well, I mean, Retribution, but now look at him.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the best lessons I learned from Bubba, from Bully Ray,
In the beginner class.
Was that opportunity sounds just like this. You guys ready? Opportunity will come knocking at your door just like this. So like Dio Madden, if they said to him, hey, bro, we understand that you went to broadcasting school. I don't know his background. I'm just making this up, freestyle.
Yeah. Yep.
Bro, we understand that you went to broadcasting school. We want you to be a color commentator on Monday Night Raw. Nah, bro, I'm here to wrestle. Are you a fool? Not what you want to do. It kills me on the inside. When I came back to wrestling, right? It killed me on the inside that I had to ring announce. It killed me. But you know what? I was not going to turn the opportunity down. I go, yep, I'll do it. Shit and grin the entire time.
Oh man, Retribution. Okay, so you mentioned WWE, NXT, MLW, all that. All right, let's take WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor, MLW. Okay, the phone rings. Okay, the phone rings all day long. Every one of them have called you. Which one are you answering, and which one are you going to?
Well, I'd be an idiot if I didn't answer all of them, because everything deserves consideration. So I would go with WWE, right? Because we're talking about WWE, AEW, one of those guys called, right?
Yep.
WWE would obviously be my top choice because they are the standard when it comes to professional wrestling, and I would learn psychology like I'd be able to learn it no place else. Also as well too, I may never make it on TV with them, but I will still go through their farm league to where I will understand how WWE produces a show and does psychology and promos and everything else like that. Yeah. AEW would be a good place to go because they don't work that much. However, if I was an AEW, knowing that all those former WWE guys were there, I'd be underneath the learning tree. Yeah. What? AEW doesn't want to hire me, bro. You know why they don't want to hire me? Because I'm annoying. I want to talk to Cody Rhodes. Not about wrestling. Like, hey, I don't want to be a mark.
Star Wars.
I don't want to be a mark. I don't want to talk about Star Wars. I only seen one Star Wars movie. Don't judge me. But what I want to do is I want to learn wrestling. I don't want to talk wrestling. I want to learn wrestling. If I went to Impact Wrestling, same exact deal as well. I want to learn wrestling. What I would do is I would volunteer to drive around the veterans, the guys who are in WWE. Hey, bro, we're all coming from New York. Hey, when we start the beginning of the loop, I'll pick you up and I'll drive the entire way. Because all I want to do is learn wrestling. That's it. If MLW called, fastest thing on 2 feet, there's some big name guys there that have made it. I would ask. The person that I'd want to talk to is Corbin. I want to talk to him.
Yeah.
Because I want to learn how he puts together the wrestling show, how he writes and everything else like that. So, I mean, I'm open to go anywhere, but everybody has their perks. It all depends on who's calling first and what they're talking about.
Yeah. And man, the longer this show goes, the more in love I fall in love with you. And in today's day and age, with social media, and everyone has a YouTube, everyone has a podcast, even promotions, let alone us. The promotions have all this stuff too. I mean, you fit in phenomenal, in my opinion, glorious. But I think we might have a caller on the line, Bama Dave, caller to Busted Open. We all listen. We're all Busted Open fans.
That's right.
Big shout out to Busted Open. And I think Dave can hear me. I don't know. He'll pop in when he can hear us. And when you can, Dave, pop in and ask your question away. I think I remembered my Back to the Future question.
Hit me with it.
And it was in Back to the Future 1 when Marty was on stage at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. And he gets ready to play the Johnny Be Good song. And he goes, well, this is an oldie. Oh, well, it's an oldie where I come from, which would be 1985. It's an oldie where I come from, but your kids are going to love it. So he's talking to his parents, okay? And then we see, Chuck Berry's cousin call him and do all this. Now, my question is, that's Johnny Be Good, okay? In 1985, were the kids in 1985 really digging Johnny Be Good? Because he says your kids are going to love it.
I don't think so, but for the purpose of the movie, I guess that movie has so many callbacks to everything.
Yeah.
Because I mean, according to Back to the Future, cars should be flying by now.
Yeah, right.
But don't get it wrong. I'm not upset that we don't have flying cars because I understand why cars don't fly in 2020.
I'm upset we don't have hoverboards. And don't tell me those other things are hoverboards. They're not.
All right.
But I proposed this question to my brother too because we bounce Back to the Future. We try to stump each other, and he told me that it wasn't Johnny Be Good per se, but it was rock and roll. And at that time in the 50s, rock and roll wasn't what it ends up being in 1985, and Johnny Be Good does that. And I was like, shit. We're always trying to stump each other.
Okay, I feel that.
But
at what time? Well, okay. What was the first thing to ever do time travel?
What was the first thing?
Yep. What was the first time ever went back in time?
In what? Back to the Future?
Of course. I mean, unless things have gone back in time in real life. Let me know.
In Back to the Future, the first time they went back in time was Doc sent his dog Einstein back in time, right?
Einstein, yep. What time did Einstein go back in time?
Oh shit. Oh gosh, I could see it.
It's easy. What time did he come back? It's easy. It's all the same answer.
He comes back a minute later, right?
Comes back at 121.
121. Fuck.
Yep, because it takes how many gigawatts to start to
it is
21 gigawatts. Come on.
I never picked up on that. I'm gonna text my brother tonight. Yeah. Damn, that is a
121, and it takes 1.21 gigawatts for it to happen.
Oh, that's right. Damn, I'm ashamed of myself.
All right, don't be ashamed.
Oh, it's okay. I'll get over it. But I think Dave is here. Dave can hear us. Bama Dave does. He also does some segments here on the show called Check Your Temp and some other stuff. So he has a backdoor key to the room. So Dave, if you're here, feel free to speak up, ask your question to the great Tristen Law tonight.
Tristen, good evening, sir. How are you?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. I was telling Standing and Vanessa before the show started, my biggest regret from when we used to do the Nation show was I never got to work a show when you were on there with me.
The last show that I did was maybe August. And I actually I was the lead host on that show. Oh my God, I love that show. It was so fun.
Absolutely, man. Hey, I just have two questions for you. One is Back to the Future related and one is wrestling related. Which one do you want first?
Oh man, you got me smiling. I don't know what I always say when I go to McDonald's. Not when I go to McDonald's. When I go to Taco Bell, they say, "What kind of taco do you want?" Surprise me.
All right. Well, let's do the Back to the Future one first because I think the answer will be shorter. And that is, I've heard so many people say that Back to the Future 1 is what is quote unquote a perfect movie. There's no flaws. There's no anything you can point out and go, this ruined the movie or this made it difficult. Can you say the same about 2 and 3? Is it a perfect trilogy or is there a legit drop off from 1 to 2 like so many sequels are?
Well, technically, there's 2 movies. There's not really 3 movies.
That's right. Yep.
Because the 2 was so long, they split it up into 2 separate movies. But me personally, I'm a fan of the whole entire franchise. I love the first one to the end. I felt like they put a bow on that package perfectly when Doc Brown got Clara and they were on the flying train and all the other stuff.
Yes.
Like I feel like they buttoned up that story so perfectly that people have wanted a new addition to the movie or a retelling of the movie, but they buttoned it up so perfectly they don't have to. Maybe in 100 years, maybe in like 2085, they can retell that movie. Maybe they'll go back to like 2020 and talk about pandemics and different things like that. But I love that movie.
No, I completely agree. All of us in our generation that grew up in love with that movie, if they dare remake it during our lifetime, I think it's a tragedy.
Oh my gosh.
I would watch it though. I would watch it. I would.
Ooh.
I agree. And then I'm going to wrap up everything that you and Stanley have been talking about with one question, which is in today's 21st century culture, and Standing and Vanessa and I had a really heated debate about this one night. And and I think that a lot of it also is reflected in today. You would think in the COVID era, where there's really not much to do. Now, granted, things are getting better, but in the COVID era, you would think that ratings for pro wrestling shows would be dramatically higher, and you would think that there would be a lot more attention on social media and a lot more pushing of all of that. But the numbers are not where we thought they would be, and they're nowhere close to where they were pre-social media and what we would call the golden age of the Attitude Era. So let me ask you, with the going away of kayfabe and wrestlers having social media and the oversaturation of all the companies and podcasts and shows and things like The Bump and Raw Talk, Smack Talk, and all these other shows we have, do you see a bright future at all for the wrestling business, or is it going to be status quo and possibly decline?
Very good question. I feel that social media is a tool. I use social media as a tool. It's not a toy for me. And a couple of weeks ago, when somebody had something bad to say about Sonny Kiss, all the wrestlers in the world all decided to put somebody over that had 9 followers. And one of the things that Bubba said on Busted Open, and he said it today on today's episode, was don't let, work your social media. Don't let your social media work you.
Yeah.
And once he said that, dude, I started using social media totally differently. If I'm using social media, yeah, I might post 1 or 2 things, but the majority of my social media is putting myself or my product or my podcast over. You can't search through my social media and wonder what if I do a podcast or not. You know, you won't know if I have a dog. You won't know if I went to Disney World today, because who cares about that? I'd rather you care about, hey, you know, this is my podcast. You may not listen today, but you may come across somebody who may want to listen to the podcast, and you'll be able to refer it to them. So is kayfabe dead? No, because we can still protect the business in a certain way, and I still protect the business in a certain way. Like for me, during intermission, I don't come out at all, because I feel it's disrespectful for me to come out, especially if I'm working somebody, because the second my mouth opens, you go, wow, this guy's a really nice guy. So what I'm doing now is I'm doing this interview right now with you guys, hanging out with you guys, because we're cool. You know, it doesn't mean that I don't hate the person that I'm in the ring with, but the way that culture and the way that television has shaped itself is that everybody wants to know what's happening when the cameras are off. And that's why shows like Ms. and Mrs., even though that's a work, the Bella Twins, that's a work, reality TV's a work, you know, all that stuff that you're watching. I always watch TV because I'm a wrestler. I'm like, am I getting worked? And if I feel like I'm getting worked, I'll watch it a different way altogether. So those things will never go away. They have to be here with the way that the wrestling business has morphed, or the way that the entertainment business has morphed, because you really want to know what Daniel Bryan is doing, because you know what? That helps build that connection. Somebody listening to this podcast right now, or they listen to my podcast, they're going to build a connection with the people on my podcast, and they're building a connection with me like, oh, wow, we like that guy. That guy is cool. And if we don't do these behind the scenes things like this, it'll never work. Honestly, 100% honesty, 25 years ago, all these things that we're doing right now wouldn't work at all. Wouldn't work at all. They wouldn't fly. If we did it, it'd be all underground, and we'd be frowned on by the wrestling business.
We'd
but
have
now
to bank. Yeah, I agree. We'd have to bank all our interviews. They'd all be taken, and we couldn't release them till years later.
Yep.
Great questions, Dave. Great questions. All right, so I'll finish up with this. I have one final Back to the Future question, and then I'm going to hand the mic to you to put yourself over, which you've done a phenomenal job all night, but that's our gimmick, so we're going to do it. But my Back to the Future question for you is this. We have Back to the Future 1, we have Back to the Future 2, we have Back to the Future 3. It's an F, marry, kill type of scenario. You have to stream one movie, keep one movie, so that means you keep the DVD. So stream one, keep one, and trash one.
Oh. Okay. So if I'm going to trash one, if I'm going to stream one, I'm going to stream number one. All right. If I am going to trash one, I'm going to trash number 2.
Ooh.
The reason why I'm going to trash number 2 is because when you watch number 3, they give you the recap of what happened in number 2.
That's a good point.
Hey, you're working with a genius over here, bro.
That's a great point. There you go. Awesome. There you go. Excellent. My brother's going to be my brother. Shout out to Generic, my brother. That's his code wrestling name. Shout out to Generic. He's going to love this episode because we talked about Back to the Future. But we are at the time of this show, Tristen, where I'm going to give you this. I do this because I'm pretending I'm handing you a mic. It's a proverbial mic. You can put over anything you want, bury anything you want. You can say anything you want. I will not interrupt. The floor is yours.
Well, I mean, obviously it was a great time being on this podcast tonight, getting ready to being able to put myself over. But it was a great time. I'm Tristen Law, and you can find my podcast every Wednesday, where you find podcasts, or at TristenLawShow.com. And my podcast is where I introduce you to the personalities in and out of the pro wrestling business. And the best part is you don't have to be a fan to watch. And hey, you know what? If you're listening right now, just go ahead and stop. Don't touch anything yet. I want you to go to your Twitter, and I want you to go to your Instagram, and I want you to follow me at The Real Big Tris. And you can also follow the Tristen Law Show there at Tristen Show. And hey, buy a t-shirt. If you're not doing anything, go to TristenLawShow.com and buy yourself a t-shirt.
Excellent. Phenomenal. Tristen, you've been a pleasure to have on. I mean, I feel there's a plethora of topics we can discuss. So I hope you had fun. I had fun. I know Vanessa had a blast, and we'll see you around. Have a great night.
Sure. Talk to you guys soon.
Yeah, anytime. Later. Awesome.
This guy's called the Standing Streamer. The champ is here!